Why don't I call the meeting to order at 9:31? President Bill McGowan, Carol Rowe, Wayne Sawchuk, Dan Coughlin, Paul Kears. And our next meeting, if we're going to do 2 weeks, is the 25th of October.
Okay.
All right. All right. So we have an abatement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All
so
right. Kara, why don't you explain to the board
Sure.
why you're requesting the abatement?
So we had noticed that our bill was getting increasingly more expensive, and I had reached out to Brenda at the water department, and she suggested, based off of our records over the last 2.5 years, that there was in fact a leak happening. So she had one of her people come out, and they tested everything. They put in a new meter, and they could still see on the meter that it was running, although there wasn't anything happening in the house as far as the toilet or shower, washing machine. There was no operating water. So he went back, and then she suggested, she said, can you go through your house, see if there's anything else that you might think that is running that we can't see or hear. And in fact, we have a Culligan water filtration system that we had not installed, that was installed in the house when we had moved here. And he came back out, the water department gentleman, and could see that the meter was still going, although the water filtration system, like I said, wasn't making any noise. So we had them come out and service it. And in fact, it was on a repeat cycle. So it had been running consistently for, since during COVID. We did have it, in fact, maintained prior to that. But since COVID, we hadn't had anyone come out to look at it. And that's, in fact, when the problem arose. So we've had a water filtration system that has been running round the clock that we weren't aware of. So I spoke to Brenda. She provided me all of our documentation and suggested that we file an abatement to see if in fact it could help alleviate some of the costs that we had incurred.
where did the water go? Did it leak on your floor or on the?
No, that's the whole thing. It just was circulating in the system, apparently.
So it didn't go into the sewer?
No, it did not.
But when they,
I don't know. I mean, they came out and fixed it. It's Culligan. They replaced, he said it was a filtration that had gone awry.
but when the water department came over and the meter was running, was the town meter actually having flow that was going through the meter?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the discharge of the Culligan system?
Perhaps it's outside. I wasn't here when it was fixed. My husband was.
Yeah.
Perhaps there was something that went out into the yard or something. I'm not really sure.
Now, is Culligan a system that is rented, or is it something that was purchased by the previous owner?
It was purchased by the previous owner.
Because I see that you had a expense of $800 to have the Culligan people come out to look at it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Just wondering what their responsibility was in terms of how would you ever know?
I think that it was installed originally when the house was built 20 years ago or some odd years ago. It was already in the home. So I don't think that they have any burden to it. They didn't seem that they had.
Yeah, because the water actually would still be going into the sewer.
Yeah.
Because it had to have
An output.
It's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah. So that was the,
Sometimes those systems do have a leach pit that they go to.
Yeah. It's not that fancy, and I have to tell you, it doesn't really do much for the water.
I noticed that 8.1 was the last reading, and then they replaced the meter on 8.7.
Yes.
Was the meter found to be defective?
I think it was just old.
Okay.
Because we had an irrigation meter put in at the previous years. I'm not really sure what year that was, because the water, like I said, was extremely high. There's only a family of 4 that live here, and my older daughter is at college. So I think just the increasing amount was, substantial, and Brenda suggested that there was definitely a leak.
Did water give you an abatement?
I haven't heard from them yet. You guys, I'm meeting with you guys first.
Yeah, the problem with this is, well, not the problem, but I think the issue with this is it's probably gone into our sewer and we've processed it.
And what
No.
does that mean?
Had to. Yeah, so in the past, we have given 50% credit when almost whenever, the circumstances arise, and frankly, I think we could probably do the same thing if
Thank you.
wants to do it. And then I don't know if the water department will give you a credit. If they're, usually we say whatever the water department gave, we will go ahead and.
I'm not sure when they're meeting. I haven't heard from them. And I do know that Brenda said that is she on the sewer or the water department?
Water.
Water.
Water. So that's what she said, she would reach out. She's been she's an amazing worker. She's very helpful. I mean, she really was trying to help us figure it out, which I truly appreciated. So I want to give her some credit.
She's actually at a conference right now, so that's probably why they haven't had a meeting yet.
Okay. Yeah, she's extremely responsive, which I really appreciated. So thank you.
Well, what do you think?
No, I'm in agreement with Wayne. Obviously, I don't know what was the total amount that they were requesting an abatement on?
2700.
270914.
$2,700.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what the rates were prior to the discovery of this. I don't know what your standard quarterly
It had
rates.
gone up 80% apparently.
Right, the
Our water
rates?
usage, which was, I'm not sure of
Oh.
the rate, but I know our
Oh,
water
usage.
usage went up 80%.
Okay.
So it was significant.
Yeah.
So have you seen a spike in the electric bill if this thing was running 24/7?
Our electric bill is outrageous too.
Yeah.
Well, it should be less now.
Hopefully, and you don't think about that kind of stuff, but like I said, during COVID, obviously we had it serviced prior to that, and then but you couldn't see it or hear it. I think that's what the real issue was, and there wasn't water on the floor. We couldn't see anything. So
There should be another meter reading coming up soon, if it hasn't already been done.
I know I had actually reached out to Brenda to see what kind of change it had made, but I know that she was off this week prior to our meeting today, just so I could sort of see it.
Wayne, do you want to make a motion?
Yep, I make the motion that we, I'm just gonna round it out here.
1350.
13, yeah. To give an abatement of $1,350 to the property at 22 Mohawk Way.
I'll second. We'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Oh, your side.
Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your assistance.
No
You're
problem.
very welcome.
Thank you. Enjoy
Yep.
the rest of your day. Thank you so
Thank-
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
John, you're next.
All right, so 46 borders coming up. So I need
Oh.
to put. Hold on. I have to promote Nino and Lewis. So they can come in.
Oh, all right. All right. I didn't know. I didn't see him on the
There they are.
Good morning.
hello.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well.
Thanks. Yeah. So Dan, I saw the document that you had sent out.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah,
that
we got a revised plan over the weekend, so I looked at that last night, kind of summed up what we had so far.
Are we close?
I think it's in a position now where you could probably approve the plan. you know, I mean, the slopes have been corrected, the inverts are now on the plan, everything seems to work at this point in time. So that's a good sign. Obviously, this is still gonna be a phased project, so if there's changes later on, we need to see them again. But the
yeah.
grease trap is being replaced in its entirety and put in with a new watertight structure with risers and watertight manholes. Most of the piping on the exterior is also being replaced. That was found to be defective by the CCTV inspection. So that's going to be pretty much all brand new. And the only other addition I had that's not on the plan now is there is still one private manhole where the multiple lines join before it goes out to the street. I would recommend that that manhole also be fitted with a watertight riser and watertight cover.
Do we know if that is that manhole like one of the original ones, like 25 years ago?
Yes, it is. But it is a private manhole.
I mean, is it in good condition? Do we know?
I have not inspected that. I believe the video indicated that the service to the street was in pretty good shape. Usually the manholes are pretty good except for the risers and the covers. And that's why I'm recommending that the riser and the cover be replaced.
All right.
But that whole spot was underwater not too many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is that, you know, during these, at the flood elevations that they have designated for this area, the first floor of the building is under 4.5 feet of water. So, you know, at that point in time, you know, everything's going down the sinks and floor drains and everything else anyways.
All bets are off there.
Right.
Have they sent you like a spec on the watertight manhole covers?
I did tell them what we used on the town's projects and what Brian has been using now in that area. And they did put a note on the septic or the grease trap detail that they sent me. And I made that part of the approval package, that basically they were going to use that same manhole cover.
And I noticed a note, I believe, on your comments that any of these stuff doesn't include the salt house.
Right. That's a separate service, a separate system, although it's part of the building.
Now,
Yeah.
that particular system, isn't that okay? As I got a call and I just want to know if that's separate and they're not sort of making any changes, except is that I'm looking at a plan here that shows the existing manhole, then it shows, you know, 10 feet or so away another manhole. Is that where the line from the old salt house is going into, or is it?
I believe the old salt house has their own tap off the main line.
Okay, so that really has nothing to do. They should be able to continue using that as it is now, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the question, and I'm not sure in my own mind, is the salt house part of the property that is owned, you know, by the Atlantica building?
No, separate owner, same building.
Okay, so it's like a condo essentially. It's not leased or rented.
No, I Dan John Hallen from the building department. Actually, the ownership of the building is separated through the building. So a portion of the building there, so it's not condoized. The property line runs actually through the building. It's a unique situation, but unfortunately, that's what that's what it is.
So a question I have is when he sent those plans to us, Dan, there was on the building that they own, less the salt house. They stated it was going to be two-phase project where one half of the building would be done this year and maybe next year or the year after the second half would be done.
Correct.
So the question is this sewer plan just for half the building and new sewer plans for the other half will be coming?
It appears to be complete as far as the plumbing plans. The only question I had is they have a designated area called the lobster pond, and it has no drains or sinks. And I find that kind of unusual for a lobster pond. I'm not sure if that's part of phase 2. My only point is if something changes, or if any of the plans are changed or modified at some point in time, then we need to see them again as part of that review process.
Yeah, so is this the sewer plans that we're approving? Is this for both phases? Does this cover both sections of the building?
Nino, Lewis, why don't you talk to that?
Well, we had provided both phases, as it was requested by the sewer commission, but this permit that is filed, at the moment is only for phase one or the right side of the building. The reason I think that the lobster pound is lacking any detail is we don't have a full understanding of what, that is going to entail. And we would be coming back for a second permit and a second approval once we have a better understanding of what equipment would be in that space.
That's going to be under phase two.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that basically recirculates the salt water under the building, right? It's going to be a separate thing where they're going to have water coming in and then, water going out to keep the lobsters alive.
Yes, yeah,
So it
exactly.
really doesn't have
Yeah,
any.
they're doing that at Border Street right now, like down by the bridge.
Right.
Right.
So John, so a question for John Halloran is are we able to capture any, when he applies for the phase two, are we able to capture any changes or additional hookups to sewer into the phase one through your process?
Yeah, I think two part. One, we probably request Dan to do a final inspection as we finish phase one as part of the occupancy, because he needs occupancy before starting phase two. And then at that point, we can review phase two, so you guys have a chance that they can finalize what exactly is going in phase two. So
Okay.
change bathrooms or whatever that is, we can pick that up and look at it again as part of the second building permit.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I did want to ask Nino and Lewis is, because it's in different phases, is all the exterior work being done under phase one? Because that would be our primary concern.
Yes, I believe all the exterior work would be done in phase one.
Okay. Including the grease trap.
Yes.
Okay.
So that could be done right now, correct?
Right, yes. We wouldn't do it at probably the front end of the project, just because, it's right out in front of the building. So we'd probably try to get, through, I don't know, halfway the project and then do the big parking lot excavation. All of that asphalt is being removed, and replaced, with a, different, material that will help with drainage on the site. So, I don't think we would be doing that on day one.
From a time perspective, what do you think that work will be complete?
Probably about a year.
So Brian, do you have any input on it? Yeah, I see your hand up there.
Yeah, no, I just had a couple of questions on the relative to the Salt House. So that I believe they shared a kitchen. So has anyone confirmed where the Salt House sewerage is going? Because I looked at plans we had in the file and online here, and I couldn't find their tap. I just wanted to confirm that if they are connected to the common sewerage under Atlantica, that that's taken into consideration, number one. And two, that we paved Border Street about 4 years ago, so we have another year on the moratorium on digging in the street. So I just want to confirm there's no digging in the street with your proposed work. And also after that, we want to confirm the Salt House, because we don't want to dig up the road, a fairly new road. So
we had it was another at one of the earlier hearings, you all had requested that we learned from you that the Salt House was in fact connected, and we were requested to cut and cap that connection from the old Salt House into our sewer, and IREA has filed for a permit to do that work. So they will be disconnected from our sewer system as soon as that work is completed in the coming weeks.
Okay, does that then mean that they would need to make a new connection to the street? Has that been?
Yes,
Right.
I believe so, yes. I mean, if they're connected to us now, they would need to tap into the sewer and establish their own connection.
Yeah, so
Historical-
I think just, I mean, they're an operating business, I think, while you guys construct, so I just want to make sure, you know, that consideration was done that you, before the cut and cap, that you know, they can't just one day, they won't be able to flush the toilets or or run the bar sink. So, and also they would need to have an application to the sewer commission approved. And they're in the moratorium, at least I think until next summer. So anyway, it's a lot to consider. I think it wasn't considered when the property was subdivided in the real estate transaction.
Yeah, just to clarify, looking at some of the historical plans, it looks like this old Salt House has their own sewer connection. Separate sewer connection. It might have just been this kitchen that was tied in separately. So if they cut and cap it, they would have to do some internal plumbing to reconnect that sink or whatever into their own plumbing, but not necessarily do a new service, because I think the service is already there.
Okay, so I looked at, if you have that plan, or if anybody else has a plan, if you could email it, that'd be handy.
Sure.
I have a concern on sort of delaying things on the old grease trap, because today, or not today, but every time the water overgoes Water Street, that that goes into the deteriorated manhole covers and stuff of that grease trap. So it's collecting salt water when in fact, so it's in total disrepair, and it really should be taken out now. And to stop that fact that it is hurting us when the water goes over the dam, so to speak.
It may be possible to put a plug in that line to isolate that. I don't think you're using that's sanitary line now, are you?
No, I think only the old Salt House was,
I think the only thing that would be tied to that potentially would be the old Salt House kitchen, like you said. So once that is done, I think that the exit or the outlet pipe to the grease trap can be plugged, and you can make that a requirement.
There seemed to me that there used to be a line, two lines going into the grease trap. One from the right-hand side, like 10 or 20 feet away, which I thought was the building. And then the second one might have been the old Salt House. So I think there were two connections going in and one going out from the last time that I saw when they were working on it, and it was plugged up and all that stuff. So probably be easy enough to
So Dan, do you think that you're gonna get, or maybe I can ask Nino and Louis this, will we get whatever Dan needs so that our next meeting we can approve this permit by then?
like, do we have enough now? I'm meaning,
Yeah, if we have enough now, I mean, I guess my only thing is I want to be sure that if stuff is owed, that if we approve it today, it gets delivered.
right.
Yeah, the only things is fine tuning what conditions you want to place on it. I think the plan itself, the way it's shown, works now.
Okay.
So the question is, what other additional conditions? Because Wayne just brought up that there might be two lines in there, and that's not depicted on the plans at all. So some of those aspects will need to be ironed out, I think, either now or
When they did the inspection to Maine, was that going through the grease trap, or that was going through non-grease traps?
I think they were doing into one line going into the grease trap, going out of the grease trap, one line, and then the other service from the bathroom area.
But so did they lift the covers of the grease trap and stuff?
I'm
Both
sorry?
of the lines that serve a building, they meet at the invert, and then they go to the main. So we don't have a straight line that goes from the grease trap outlet to the main. They both meet on an invert, and then they connect to the street main.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the two lines that go to that last manhole going off the property. I did not know, or I didn't have any information regarding two lines going into the grease trap. So that's
But,
something that we're gonna have to take a hard look at when they start digging, I think.
but to me, it
because-
seems like someone hasn't, or the person that has done it may or may not have gone into the grease trap, but I don't know how you're running a line from the building and you're going into almost a destroyed grease trap, and that camera is gonna make it out from the grease trap to the main.
No,
How's that done?
yeah, they didn't go through the grease trap. It was done in 3 separate videos, essentially. Well, actually 4 separate videos, because they couldn't get all the way on one line.
Okay, so you've got.
So they stopped at the grease trap in
Yeah.
both cases.
You stopped at the grease trap, so you don't know,
What's in the grease trap?
what stopped them,
The teeth.
right? So there really should be an opening of the grease trap and going to the line, going to our system. That's the one that you could block if in fact they get in there and do that.
Yeah, Wayne, the existing grease trap and the associated piping connecting to the invert and coming from the building is proposed to be replaced in entirety. So I'm not sure if that's scoping of that pipe and knowing the current condition of the grease trap is required.
But if the grease trap is collecting outside water from storms, and at least once a year the Boda Street has salt water on it, then
Right, that's why I was saying you could put a plug in that line to stop all.
somebody's gonna open it and put a plug in it, but they should check it going to our main.
Could that be a condition and we would jump right on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the last manhole before it leaves the property. That's the one I talked about upgrading the cover and the riser for. All the lines go to that one manhole, so that's the central point. You could basically plug the grease trap line, so no flow is coming in from that route.
So Dan, is this grease trap basically the last remaining major item versus any kind of changes to the design?
Well, they're gonna put in a new one, so.
Right.
It's a
It's gonna be a whole new tank, a whole new piping.
Right.
Basically, everything outside is being replaced.
Okay, yeah, but okay.
Yeah, I think Wayne's
So-
trying to clarify that if they don't do it for another year, then that grease trap is just sitting there for a whole year and just,
Leaking into
you know,
the system.
it's gonna flood and cause issues, so.
Right.
I mean, we could do it first, I guess, and before we
Right.
start construction, if that's what it takes to move this along.
We just don't need the inflow from it if it happens.
Right, we want to have something block it from the grease trap to the street.
Right.
And then when you're out there, you're gonna unblock it and you're gonna connect it up and stuff like that. But in doing that, you want to check the condition of the pipe from there to the street.
They have videotaped that pipe, Wayne.
Oh, they do, so that.
Yeah. Yeah, the one going to the street looked pretty good. All the other pipes didn't look very good, so they're being replaced.
Okay.
But they can't put that plug in the last manhole to isolate the whole grease trap line and stop any II from coming in. And that can be a condition of your approval too.
They could put a watertight cover on it too, right?
It's,
Well, you don't know, because the rest of the system is gonna be built.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The risers, the tank itself, yeah, I'd be afraid of what else is leaking in there, so putting a
So-
plug is the easiest thing.
so the plans are good to go with the condition of capping that current grease trap.
Yeah, I basically make it subject to my review letter, the conditions in the review letter, because there are some there, plus plugging of that grease trap line, immediately.
And that can
Okay.
be with a rubber plug and stuff, right? With it
That expansion plug, you put it in that manhole and then they can pop it out and
out later. So that's
And-
all
and-
simple.
And
How are
also,
you?
we also need to confirm that the salt house is independently hooked up.
yeah, I'll
Just-
dig up that plan for Brian. We can both take a look at it and see what's going on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it, yeah, I think Dan's idea of plugging the very last connection going to the street makes sense, but I would like to see, maybe just, you could easily do like a flow test and pop the manhole covers and see, flush the toilets and all the fixtures in Salt House and see if they go into that structure. Dye
Yep.
test, whatever.
And then that sends it. They can do whatever they're going to do, remodeling or pass papers or whatever.
Yeah, I think he said, Riviera was doing the plumbing work over there
Yes,
at the old
yep,
office.
I agree.
Has that,
Should we hold off on that until we confirm that there is in fact a separate line?
well, I think, was that coming before the board for review or
We
that
haven't
work?
seen anything from them.
The
Was
cut
that
and
just
cap?
going, was that just going to plumbing? Yeah. In any case, we could make it a requirement of whatever work he's doing. If he submits to us.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we confirm the old salt house is separate? Confirm that you could cap the tank and then get on the agenda for the 25th so we can approve the plans and they can move forward with construction.
Yeah, I'd like to, listen, I'd like to, get this done on the 25th, period.
There's no way we can do this today, so we can.
Who
Yeah, I
is
mean,
this, by the way?
if you can get the information together, because today's only the 10th, we can schedule a meeting 72 hours in advance to approve a plan. If you can confirm that and cap the tank, then we could book something for, next Tuesday or Wednesday for 20 minutes. You think a week is you need to that type of speed or
I honestly, I don't know,
Okay.
how quickly that could be done. It sounds simple enough, maybe a couple of days even. I don't know. I've actually never had to.
Yeah, we don't need you to we just need you to confirm that you are going to cap it and when. We don't need to have it capped.
Yes, yeah, I will,
Yeah.
immediately after this meeting, call Tony Ioria and get that work underway.
Okay.
Yeah, and just let Carol know, we can schedule a meeting, with the proper notice, and then we can just do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we basically meet every 2 weeks, so if you need us to meet more often than that to approve these plans, we can. We just confirm the salt house is hooked up independently and confirm how and when you're gonna cap the tank.
Okay.
Yeah, and then please review Dan's recommendations because those will be part of the deal.
Yeah, it's the criteria for us
Yeah.
approving it.
Right, and if the old salt house line is checked and looked at and it's okay, that shouldn't hold up any permits that they may want or the passing of papers on that particular section.
How would I go about, I don't own or have access to that portion of the building. How would I confirm, other than the historic plans you guys are referring to? I don't.
Call them up and see if you can do what we suggest you do. And if they say no, which they won't do because they've called me and said something, the sewer's tying me up to making a transaction with Mr. Sullivan. So, I would just call them and because we have to have from you the knowledge that their sewage is not going into your pipes that you would be responsible for.
Yeah, I thought that's why we were instructed to cut and cap their line, because it's just a separate issue from a separate building owner. I don't know why it would.
If it was to cut it, then their line wouldn't be workable, right?
Right, I'm just saying that was the instruction we got in prior hearings, and now we're being asked to do something else. It's just.
Well, we were asking to find out if they have a separate line.
Yeah, I mean,
If they have a separate line, then that's the end of your worry about that.
what Wayne brought up is basically he believes there might be a second inlet pipe into that tank.
But it
And
might
that's
not
what
be
we're
used anymore.
And that's what we're trying to clarify, because if it's a separate inlet pipe to the grease trap from the old salt house, then that could be an additional issue. So I mean, if you can call over those owners, I'm sure you're familiar with the owners, and just see if when Tony goes out there, he can just do a quick dye test to see where that flow is going. That would be ideal. Just to
In the
confirm that
meantime,
we're not
yeah,
having any
Dan-
lines.
And Dan, you're going through the historicals to see what you have for plans on that property?
I am.
Okay.
Dan, I think also too, I think historically where they shared a kitchen at one point, the kitchen was physically in Atlantica, but used by both parties. And I think that's going to change. I think the Salt House in the future will lease a space from Atlantica and run their new kitchen line separately to their existing service, separate from Atlantica. So that's what I anticipate happening as well. And also, if you guys feel comfortable to send me any of the work or construction that you need done or outline of that, I can attach it to the building permit as a condition as well, so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I'll distribute some of the information.
All right, we all set?
Yeah, Nino, any questions?
No, so basically you're just looking for confirmation that they have a second line. And then, what did I need to do to, do I just agree that we'll tap plug the grease trap, and that was the second?
Yeah, just you have to identify how you can plug the grease trap from going into that final line.
Okay,
And
so I
when-
could just have Lewis
and
send
then-
some kind of a
And
detail
when
on
would
it.
you, right, and then when would you cap it?
Okay, so
Okay.
that I can get you today, and then I'll call McGoldrick to see if we can do a dye test on his side.
I'm sure
Yeah.
he'll say yes.
I think Tony can also take a look at the grease trap on the interior and maybe look to see if there are any additional lines. Unfortunately, they may be tough to see unless he empties it, but he can look on that end as well.
Yeah, I think it's worth, if it is full of grease now, it's worth getting it out of there and
Gonna have to do it at some point.
do it at some point. And it gets a lot harder the longer it's there.
Okay.
Okay. I think
All right.
it's simple.
All right, I will get on that, and Dan, I can just continue to fire off things as we
So,
get them. to you.
We'll put you on the agenda for the 25th. Unless we hear from you sooner, that you need a decision made sooner.
Yeah, I'm under huge pressure from ownership to get this permit issued before I get fired, before I even start this project. So I'm gonna try my best to get you all this week. And then see if it's possible to meet and get this squared away for an approval.
Yeah, Nino, just send me the information as you get it. And
Okay, will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I need to put in Jeff DeLisi to go over One Pleasant.
Sure.
Okay. There you go. John, can you unmute?
Got it.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all.
Jeff.
John, I don't know if you want to start. I think the board probably has a breakdown of the sewer flow analysis, which looks similar to the breakdown previously provided when the application was retail and office space and restaurant on the first floor and apartments above. So now John has asked me, in light of the discussions with the town, to do the analysis showing the design flow for town hall on the first floor entirely, and then the apartments above. And I've done that. And what was interesting about it was you might have seen the the first floor design flow actually, the demand was lessened by like 66% over what previously existed in the first floor space, which was kind of a shocker to me. It was an amazing benefit. So that kind of allowed me to calculate that, there's probably a savings if you were going to impose an EDU analysis that worked on the inflationary index, which was consistent with what we previously discussed. Probably a savings of somewhere around close to $50,000 on an EDU analysis there. And then in addition to that, you have your apartments on the second and third floor. What I did was create an analysis using 110 gallons per day, applying the inflationary index. And then what I did was I just, for purposes of discussion, since you did an 18% credit on Mr. Stasko's property over on Chief Justice Cushing Highway in a similar circumstance for rental apartments, I worked on that assumption and just factored in a credit there. So at the end of the day, I think that if the board is interested in understanding what the total dollar sum would be for a change in use, assuming that the board imposes a change in use in a situation where the property is already connected, it looked to be somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000.
So last we took a look at the property, which was going to have basically a 50-seat restaurant in it. We were somewhere around $100,000 with all of the EDU calculations that Dan had done. And so removing the 50-seat restaurant, and we would remove one apartment so that it would be 13. I believe the other one is being converted to a space for employees. So it would be 13 apartments, and then the first floor calculation of EDUs. So we would go ahead and calculate what those are, and we would collect the fees for that property because the town is interested in purchasing the property, but that's based on a vote by the residents of the town. And what they're buying is a building that is completely built through all of the committees and commissions and paid their fees throughout the town for the process. So we anticipate participating in that and doing the same thing. I would have a discussion with the fellow commissioners about any affordable housing discount. You brought up the fact that that the town is interested in purchasing the facility, and what the town has decided to do in interest of the affordable housing element of it is they're going to be receiving, or they're requesting $1.3 million in funding from CDPC for affordable housing elements of that building. So I would not be in favor of giving the discount to the affordable housing based on the town receiving CPC funding for the affordable housing aspect of it.
So just to be clear, I know that, Paul, that you kind of addressed that to the board. I was not involved in the purchase and sale agreement, which was negotiated with a different counsel on behalf of the applicant and town council. But my understanding is that the seller would not be responsible for payment of the sewer fees regarding this particular property and this particular proposed use. So what you would be talking about is the town charging the town. So I just want to be clear with that. I'll let you guys mull that one over. in addition, it looks like I would need to, all I was asked to do for today was provide a breakdown, and it looks like I would need to revise that based on what I'm hearing, which is that the proposal would go from 14 units to 13, which would further reduce the design sewer flow and EDU calculation on the residences. And I just wanted to point out, since we are talking about it, I do think I had a year ago written a letter to the board or to the commission, which outlined some arguments as to why I thought that because this property has been connected for decades and already paid a betterment fee, and I pointed out specific areas in the rules and regulations that provide a calculation for change in use. And I think that the calculation is different than your policy. And I think that that is possibly kind of an area where if the board were to consider in the interest of affordable housing and public benefit, a fresh look at how it approaches this situation, that would be a good starting point, because I think that the rules and regulations basically say something very different than the way we're speaking right now. But those are two issues I would think that the board or the commission would grapple with, not me.
Okay, so we need to get clarification because in a public meeting, I specifically asked if all fees to the sewer department would be paid, and the select board stated that they would be. So I don't know what.
By
I believe it was Gene Dippold. I'll have to go back and take a look.
No. Who would be the who would be paying the fee?
The property owner.
The seller or the buyer?
So the seller would be paying all of the fees. Now, I was told that he paid fees to the water department already. So if that's the case, and those weren't waived, why would ours be waived? I guess is the question I have for the select board and legal counsel, I guess, that they're getting advice from. So we were told because this is a private project that all construction of the building would be done within the guidelines of the town's rules and regulations, which is to pay all of the fees, hookup and privilege and permitting until the building is completed. And at that point, the town would offer to buy the building that's already been completed. They stated that the town could not specifically give favor to themselves in build out or in waiving fees, because then it would violate their the veil of going under prevailing wages and specifying a building built to their specifications. Then it becomes, a project that I don't know what issues they would have to go through as far as bidding it out or anything like that. But they said it had to be a completed building through all the regular committees and permitting processes, had to be complete, and then they would purchase the building. So if that's the case, then you would come to us like you have a year ago with the intent of not selling it to the town, and you were in the process of understanding that there was a privilege and hookup fee that would be applied. And the question is, what was that amount, right? So nothing's changed. You're still building a building. You're still going to offer it for sale to someone. And we still need those privilege and hookup fees paid for. The question is, if there's no restaurant that's going to be there anymore, and we reduce it by one apartment, what would that EDU look like, and what would that fee be?
Yeah, I can't speak to your communications with the selectmen or the select board. I don't know if Mr. Hallen has any comments he would want to add to that, but
no, I think it's kind of Paul is a good point. I think we need to do one thing is maybe at least come up with the number of what it would be for the new calculations. less the one apartment. And also, I don't know, Paul, if we consider if the sale goes through with the town, I suppose the lack of use from the existing town hall. So, but I don't know what that would be, or if it would be considered. At least that way, from a starting point, we could at least hypothetically come up with a cost of the fee that you guys would agree on if it wasn't, regardless of who the party was that it was sold to. Again, at that point, we, with the same reduction in the CPC funds, we really can't consider that because that's the sale hasn't taken place. So again, also the affordable house, originally I think they were just going to have 3 to 4 affordable units, and now I think they would all be affordable. So there's a difference there too to calculate. So at least I think with those things in mind, if we could at least come up with a reasonable or a set fee, that a value of it there, and then once we have that value, I think we can then determine payment of the fee.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to do that. So first of all, just a clarification that the property is deeded for only 4 affordable units. That's it. None of the other units will be affordable. Unless the town decides to deed the entire property with all apartments affordable. That's the only way to make them all affordable. The town will get credit for affordable on all of them, but 4 will actually be deeded affordable. So that's one aspect of that. I'm in the mindset that, no matter who buys the building, we go through the process of assessing what that is. Now, if we assess that there's a privilege hookup fee of $50,000 or $80,000, and that is paid by the property owner, then he could go to the town as part of his selling the building and say, listen, I need credit, or add the 80,000 to the bill. That's to get his 80,000 back. I don't know what they negotiated with the town, but we're a sewer commission, and we don't know that the town's going to buy the building. We hope the town is going to buy the building. It still has to go up for vote and pass. So once assuming everything's passed and everyone is going to proceed with buying the building. So they can't buy it unless it's completely built and permitted.
So I think the board, the commission, has to achieve some definitive position on this prior to the town meeting, and it would make sense. There might be questions at town meeting. So I just wanted to point that out. And secondly, I do think that, I've had this argument in front of the board that the policy is for new connections, and we already have an existing connection. And I went through an analysis with the rules and regulations as to why the rules and regulations don't require a fee the way we're looking at it here. And I think it's incumbent on the commission to have this looked at by its council and determined one way or the other. It's been in front of the commission for a year now.
Have you submitted any final plans to the building now that you're eliminating the restaurant and eliminating an apartment? Is that something that's simple to do?
Axiom has done a set of plans, and I believe they're with John.
Okay.
Yep.
If you'd like, we can email you those plans. Again, the first floor layout. The plans on the second and third floor haven't changed any, so they're the same as the original. But all the changes taking place on the first floor.
And all I did for purposes of my calculation was took the footprint of the building, which never changed, and just dedicated the entire first floor, all of the footprint towards the use, for what it's worth.
Okay, so what I'd ask Dan Coughlin to do then is to calculate the EDUs again, without the restaurant. 50 seat. See what that number is as the baseline.
Well, that is if you're charging EDUs for a property that's already connected, right?
So we've been down that road. It was a change of use where it was an eyeglass factory with a small portion of EDUs, and you've added 14 two-bedroom apartments to it. So there is an increase of EDUs on the property, which is a change of use, which is why you came before us to find out what the fee would be for the change of use. And I know your experience within the town, you've seen various financial models on how to calculate that. And you brought those to our attention. So there is still a calculation that we're going to be doing on the change of use. Once we get a baseline for what the building is today, then it's up to the commission to decide how they want to calculate that use.
Fully respect it. It's the reason why I came to the board informally prior to filing an application with the board formally for a privilege and connection fee was because I was asking the board to address the question of what your rules and regulations say relative to what your application was requesting. But seems like you have a process there. I just don't understand the legal authority for it. And I think that the commission should be able to explain that to me.
Well, I think I'd like to talk for just a minute. I think that whatever usage it had before, which changed, the eyeglass factory, start with the lumber company, I don't know how many employees they have, then the how many employees were there when the eyeglass factory was there, but or what was the usage before it was torn down, and this, just go through the calculations and what was the flows and stuff there. That's what would be, in my opinion, grandfathered. It was no application was done when they put the restaurant in. No, none of that happened because it didn't happen. And James Lane was another thing that was sort of weird in terms of what the thing is. And all of the village has been basically, you're there, if you want to change it. There was a new tenant that just moved into the building next to mine. They didn't go down and say, we now are renting this storefront, and this is what the use is going to be. And do I owe you more money? I think this is sort of ludicrous. It is, and I don't know what kind of a TNS the town has, and how that almost has to be hidden if in fact we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing. But it is to the benefit of the town, and it's a great idea and all that stuff. So there's no restaurant, so that took care of the fact that there wasn't any additional use. The restaurant would have caused additional use. So how do we, are we going to charge them something for something that isn't there yet? So I think in Paul's, I just don't think that it just should be. It should be. I think it just. It's almost like doing something as a token amount of money, because it's almost something that maybe the town needs in order to justify that we, are doing this deal the way we're doing it.
Yeah, I think if we calculate a building that's being constructed with a change of use, find out what the baseline is from Dan and what that calculation is, dollars, and it could be $20,000. I don't know. Could be, $50,000, $80,000. Let's just find out what the baseline is for that property, and then we can make a decision from there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I thought there were determinations before this. Well, What's the next step?
The next step is for Dan to get the calculations to us and find out, you know, since it's-
Calculations of what?
of what the EDUs are and what the cost of that would be against the
Of
same
what? Of the new building today?
of the new building today, right? The
Okay.
14 apartments and office on the first floor as opposed to restaurant.
Okay, and what is he gonna do about what the usage was in historically?
So what we had done in the past is when we had calculated it, if it had credit for the prior hookup in EDUs, I believe Dan put that into his calculations when we did the I'm trying to look it up on my system right now. When he did the original costs of that property. So I believe that was part of our calculations was they already got credit for what was on the first floor. And then we had to add the 50 seated restaurant to it. And we were doing this all in accordance with the Title V guidelines of what the costs were per EDU. So
Yeah,
So-
we don't really consider the flow if they exceeded the normal use. We look at it from a totally just an EDU perspective. What's the potential under Title V criteria as far as maximum flow generation? And that's
Right,
what we're
but-
looking at it.
Right, but there's your rules and regulations only allow the board to charge two charges. One, a betterment assessment, and that's for upon the completion of the installation of a new sanitary sewer. That happened decades ago. The other section, which is, so the first section I'm referencing is section 1003.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm not going to get into a discussion regarding the legal ramifications.
But why?
of the rules and
Why?
regs.
You're
I'm not the
asking
lawyer.
for calculations
Yeah.
that allow you to charge things that you're not authorized to charge. Section 303 has the permit fee, $50 for the first 3 units, $25 for each, $25 for each of the 11 units, and for commercial units, it's $100. That's your fee. I
I don't
understand
want
why
to go
we're
through.
talking about numbers until we've determined if you have the authority to impose the fee at all.
Commission believes they do.
Yeah, and I think we do too, and I'm gonna end this right now. We will go to our council and get an opinion on this. But I believe that an EDU is an outlying charge that we have been voting on for decades, as you keep saying. And so I don't want to go through this circle anymore.
Well,
I
please
think
just
we will
share-
go to our attorney and get an opinion on it. And the next meeting that he is available to come to, we will invite you to it, and then you guys can discuss it on a legal basis.
That's great. Please share with them my letter of October 27th, 2022 on this property, which I sent to the board. And that should at least help to guide him towards my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill.
One thing too, Paul, I haven't received anything on this property as far as revised documents, correspondence, or anything for months. So,
yeah, John Hanlon has them.
Yeah,
okay,
he's gonna email them to you.
okay, great.
All right.
Just one other question, Dan, is there anything else you need besides the first floor plans?
Second floor plans?
Oh, and third floor, I mean, those haven't changed from I don't know if you have those. So you need all 3 floors?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay.
I'd like to see what the latest and greatest is. So,
All right, I'll be able to get that out to you tomorrow.
okay, thank you.
And any other, and would you do your considerations too? Although there's 8,000 square feet, do you base it on square footage on the first floor?
In some cases, yeah.
Okay, all right. So this way you'll be able to deduct out elevator, stairway, and stuff that's not office space, but you'll be able to see that on the plans.
Yeah, we run it in accordance with Title V criteria, which, is usable space.
Okay, so I'll send those over tomorrow, and then if there's any other additional information you need from me, let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Do the actual number of occupants are considered in this, or just the square footage and
Yeah, there's all different kinds of parameters. It
No,
can
just
be
fair.
occupants, it could be bedrooms, it could be seats. There's, it follows a bunch of different criteria if they're senior housing or not senior housing. So
Right.
we'll see what we
So
we start with.
apartments all 2 bedroom or
No, mixed, 2 and 1 bedroom.
so, okay, so that's done as that
The
way,
only
right?
the only designation is whether they're affordable or not. That doesn't come into play. But is there any dedicated for seniors living at all?
No.
Okay.
Not now. I mean, on
Right.
the,
Right, they can
We're-
change it, I
we're doing
suppose.
this on the existing plan, not for the future use.
Yeah.
Right? In terms
Yeah,
of-
we're basing it on the current plans.
Summer plan.
So just
John, while we have you, I believe Carol sent you a couple of addresses, that people are putting up additions and things of that nature.
Yes, I think one was North Main Street, probably 140, 150, right around
Yeah.
there.
Then there was another one on North Main Street as well. It was a tear down, and they actually have a DEP permit sign on the front.
Yes, I haven't been by those yet, but I know we
Okay,
did go through those. And one of them, I'm just waiting for the framing plan. One,
Okay.
the room above the garage was an existing open room, not a bedroom. So we'll just verify that when we do our rough inspection.
yeah, okay. No, there's just been a couple down there where, they forget to get permits.
Yeah, yeah, we've spoken with them. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, John. We have Rob on, and I know he's been waiting patiently. So, Lisa, could you get him on? Or if
He's-
still... Oh, there he is.
He's
Okay.
here.
Yeah, I see him. Hello, Rob.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Wonderful.
Great.
You look really good today.
Thanks. Scott Papa is with me as well. We're actually in Florida at the managers meeting.
Oh, that's why you're not on the screen.
And I 100% apologize. I didn't know we were on the agenda today. So
It's all right.
it caught me by surprise. We ran upstairs and I have my computer on and we're on the phone. The reason for asking to be on the agenda, I sent out an update. Right now we're in year 5 of 5, which ends on December 31st. I believe there's 3 2-year extensions built into it. At this time, we really need to discuss basically your option of enacting the 2-year extension if you so choose. We hope you do. I summarized all the costs, and I couldn't be any more transparent. It's truly where it's at. Sludge disposal's up 30%. Chemicals are up 30%. The CPI, the automatic CPI that's built in is based on September or October. I think it's September's inflation, which we anticipate somewhere between 3 and 4. So I don't know if everyone got a chance to see that correspondence or not. What we're hoping to do, what we'd love to do is renew for the 2-year extension effective January 1st. And we're asking for an adjustment of 10% to compensate for sludge disposal, chemical costs, and labor, and increased cleaning. And I'd gladly answer any questions anyone may have. And we'll start with that. Some of the main concerns, I don't know if you want to get into today, the membranes, the I&I, and the corrosion, which we're working on. And we have some presentations on that as well. But
Does the 10%, is that the same all 3 years?
No, it's just a one-time 10% to get equity adjustment, and then it goes back to the September CPI, Wayne.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's not 10% over the years. No, it's one equity adjustment.
Thing I thought, how much is it worth over the, so that you do it at 33% this year, and then another 33 and another 33 or whatever.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's 10 for year 6, and then year 7 goes to the actual September CPI. no different than the contract has.
What would you think that would be?
It's stabilized, and so it's going to be, my guess, if I had to guess, would be somewhere between 2.5 and 3.
Okay.
This year, last year I think it was close to 8, I think, to compensate for almost 30%. This year we're seeing a lot of stability, especially the last 2 runs, and we think about 3.5.
Rob, are you and Scott gonna remain on?
We are going to remain, yes. We'd like to. We'd like to have us.
If you'll have us, we will.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, right?
Right.
So what are the options? Is to do a 2-year extension, or are we at the point where we do a full renewal, or?
Well, he's suggesting 3 years, which is buying us more time.
So may I interject for a second, Wayne? I believe the contract states it's a 5-year contract with the option of 3 2-year renewals built right into it. So you actually have 5, and then there's 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. You can exercise the option on them any way you so choose, I believe, but I'd have to get confirmation. And
Yeah, I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a 5-year agreement with a 2-year extension, and then that 2-year extension comes with an additional 2-year extension.
An additional
3 2-year extensions after the 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the question is, are any aspects of these have any cost containment elements to them that would kind of sway us to a complete renewal, or just keep doing extensions and just keep getting cost increases?
Well, cost increases are going to happen to everybody.
Yeah. I guess the way I would phrase it, Paul, would be, is there a benefit, Rob, for us to agree to the 3 2-year extensions now?
I honestly don't know that answer, and I apologize for that. I'm with all the people that can answer that question. They're downstairs. I can get back.
Ask them after 6 o'clock tonight, will you?
After 6 tonight. Why? What did happen? Oh, I got it. I honestly don't know.
All right.
Is Dan on the phone with us still?
I am.
I mean, there's usually benefits to signing a long-term contract as opposed to just continuous extensions, because if we keep doing extensions, you never know if we're going to change our mind. But if we have a 5-year contract, we're locked in for 5 years, and usually there's something on the other. There's something for both sides, right? For signing something long-term. So I don't know if they have a cap on expenses. No, 20% a year or 5% a year. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure there's.
Yeah. Currently now the increase is dictated solely based on, I believe, the September CPI adjustment. We go to the table, whatever it is, that's what it is.
Okay.
Within those provisions, when an extension's granted or open for negotiations and discussion, that's when you can make an adjustment. If we lock into 5 years, we have to wait 5 years to make an adjustment outside of the CPI, unless it's force majeure or very well documented as to why. We'd have to justify to you as to why. So I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the 10% adjustment covered in the contract now?
Is the 10%?
You're asking for a 10% adjustment now? And then,
Well, year 6 would be about 3.5 to 4 based on the CPI, Dan, automatically.
okay.
So we're
Okay.
actually looking for about 6% to cover
Okay.
sludge, chemicals, labor.
Okay,
mileage,
so
basically.
this
the
is,
increase.
that's a request for additional compensation based upon the changes in prices.
Correct, market adjustment, correct. Yep,
But it's only one time.
yes,
I'm just saying it's not automatic provision.
Right, but I mean.
right. Only when you come to the term, term of the contract, and then to start discussing extensions is when you make a market adjustment, unless there's force majeure, and I forget the other thing, something to do with
Sure.
interest, something.
I think.
But I mean, based upon the costs of your doing business, you've calculated that this year you really need a 10% adjustment in the pricing for that first year of the 2-year extension.
Correct, just basically what we would call fair market value, which is going back to day one, basically.
Do we
So
know?
then, so then in 24 months, we come back for another extension and there's another adjustment. Or we go with a renewal of the 5 years and there's no adjustment for 5 years.
Yeah, except for the CPI, the annual CPI.
Yeah, right.
And I asked if Dan was on the phone because he was very instrumental in the writing of the RFP, request for proposals. And do you know, Dan, if they, I'm guessing yes, but do you know if they can just simply enact the 3 2s and say we want a 6-year extension? And I
All
guess
at
it comes
once?
to mutual agreement.
I don't think there's any specific language in there to talk about that, but I don't think it's also prevented from being done.
Right. I'm
so, I mean,
sure our folks would. I mean, I don't know why they would.
I actually don't have a copy of the final contract. There was some additional negotiations at the end there that, so I don't have a signed copy, but
Okay.
From my recollection, as far as the way we formatted it, it was the town's option to do the extensions. But if you're amenable, I don't see why you couldn't impose all the extensions at once.
That's my feeling as well, but I didn't want to speak without knowing. I will have to ask Paul, who's downstairs. I can get you the answer within, before close of business, probably. If that's efficient.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Now, do we have any, what I think is important is if you're asking for money, how much money do we have or can we get to be able to pay for it and stuff in terms of, what are our revenues right now compared to our expenses right now? And can we, legitimately do these things? Or do we have to raise our rates again or something?
We should be okay, given the monies that we've had and what's going to come in. But I think that's a great question. I think, Carol, we should be, we were getting monthly financial statements as to what we're doing, good, bad, or ugly. Could you talk to Finance Land and find out what's going on?
Will do.
All right.
Yeah.
The CPIs were intended to try to escalate those costs based upon those averages. They don't always track with individual items. So that's a difficult thing. But I mean, the intent was basically that the CPI would make those a reasonable adjustment to all the costs alone.
Correct.
But I can understand Rob's point. There are a lot of items that have escalated higher than one would anticipate normally. So I'm sure he has a breakdown and a rationale. I haven't seen anything, but that justifies those costs.
Yeah, I guess, Rob, why don't you find out, with your head guy, what's going on, and then, we have a meeting on the 25th, and Carol, why don't you put that on the agenda for us to
Okay.
maybe vote one way or the other, and
we just need to understand what the options are.
Yeah.
It's just a, automatic 2-year renewal.
Yeah, where the 10% is not an automatic thing. I mean, you could try to offset the costs and, do a change each year or something like that. An adjustment each year.
And Rob, just for the benefit of myself, can you resend your note to Carol and she'll circulate that to the board and Dan?
Absolutely. Soon as I hang up, I can send that.
Okay,
I actually have them. I can resend them out.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Sarah, I don't know if you dig up a copy of the signed contract. I'd like to get a copy of that too.
I will look for it.
I
Thanks.
know we have it because we've gone back, we used it for another project, as you know, as a, we had to go through it, but
But exercising all three options at once might be a good option.
yeah, if it's to our benefit, I think so.
If it's to both people's benefit.
Right.
All right. Anything else, Rob?
I don't know if you want to get into like the three main concerns, the membranes, the I&I, and the corrosion. I mean, I'm not sure how involved you want me to get to. So talking about the membranes, is there a planned follow-up call? Do you guys know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was actually in Michelle Leary's office last week, rapping on her to find out where is this guy.
Yeah.
And I guess he's in some trial, which he's been referring to. So, and he's busy. So I just said, you know, he can't forget us because, you know,
Right.
I just don't want to not have legal contact with Veolia because they'll say, well, forget it. You know, we're not going to do anything.
Right.
They're not going to get out. They're not going to go out of their way to help us.
It made some offers that,
Yeah, but I think, but I think that since we've opened up the legal door, we can't, you know, I would never want to go around it. I think we have to make sure that it's, you know, attorney to attorney in this case.
right, but
Yeah, I just want something to happen.
I thought there was some options to meet and consider.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last time we spoke to him, he was going to come before the board with Rob and Brian and Michelle, and we were going to, look at all the different permutations of this thing and which ones do we want? What's best for the town, including maybe dropping this thing, getting a new membrane, and then saying, you know, see you later.
Right. And then the next big items, the I&I. I know Peter Lyons put together a lot of stuff for Brian. I believe Brian presented it at a town level, looking to see if it'd be an ARPA project, which got deferred by the town to potentially become a funded project. Do you guys know any follow-up on that?
And Brian's muted right now, but I know that they've been replacing some of the manhole covers on Margin Street and whatever. Brian?
Hi, sorry, I just caught the tail end. I just hung up on another call. What was the subject matter?
I&I, what are we doing?
So we received a CZM grant for resiliency, and we're going to be meeting with them. Also, I'll forward you the invite for tomorrow on a scoping meeting. So I will I'll forward you that invite, and Pete Lyons is it was based on the work in around the Jacobs Meadow and the treatment plant with the Woods Hole group, and the Woods Hole group we're using the Woodard and Curran engineering arm on the scope of it.
When they did the repaving on Elm and Margin, did they put in watertight manholes on that, or they already were there, weren't they? In some
No,
cases,
well, the watertight manholes were not, they were degraded and they need to be replaced, and they're going to be replaced in the next few weeks. So the sewer department, you guys have bought replacement manholes that are going to be installed by TL Edwards, similar to what they did on Border Street. This work for the grant is not on the watertight manholes on Margin or Elm. It's for basically Jacobs Meadow and stuff around the plant.
Okay, they had a site visit too, going over some stuff that was on Monday. And they took note of the corrosion in the building, a lot of the electrical conduit stuff that's within that flood level. So they have some pretty good insight for the follow-up meetings.
Do we have a value on the grant?
Yeah, I think it's stand by. No, I'll send what I have from, so Montana Casella was is our in-house kind of grants coordinator. I'll send you all the grant information once we hang up here. And I would suggest that, you know, if I'll send you the meeting invite for tomorrow. It looks like it's at 1 p.m. Sorry, 2 p.m. with CZM. It's kind of the, you know, just initial meeting with them. So if you want to choose one of you to attend, because there's a posting thing there. I don't think you all need to attend, but if one of you want to attend, just to.
At a town hall?
No, it's a Zoom thing.
Oh, Zoom.
So would Rob and Scott be able to attend that? Is that what you want to do, Rob, is find out what they're doing?
Yeah, it'd be good if possible. What time did Brian say that was at?
2?
It's at 2 p.m. tomorrow.
I could do it.
It's Microsoft Teams, not Zoom. So
That would work.
So I'll forward that to you, Rob, and Bill.
Yeah, or just send it to Wayne. I can't make it. I don't know, Paul, about you.
No.
Yeah, so Wayne can deal with it. He probably knows more about it than we do.
Okay, so Rob, Wayne, and I'll include Carol.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mind throwing Scott on that too, Brian?
Sure thing. Yep.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
Yeah, the last thing on the agenda was other business. So the only thing I have is I'd like to have Dan do a final review of CJC. Because it looks like he's ready to get everything finalized by the town, and according to the contract that we have, that, you know, has to be, everything has to be completed before it's conveyed to the town.
Mhm.
I don't know what's
Do we-
left that we need to do.
Yeah, I think the amendment was the wrong amendment. We sent that out to them, Carol. Did we get that
Right.
back? We get it back, the signed one?
But nobody signed it as of yet.
Okay.
There's another amendment to sign.
The amendment was not the final amendment that got executed for some reason. So all the provisions regarding the flow reporting were not included in there.
Okay, yeah, the reporting was the element that we worked on for a while.
So Carol sent that back out to them, and we haven't heard anything from them on that, I don't think.
Nope,
Really?
not yet. I will follow up with them.
Okay, so the amendment is out to the folks at CJC to sign, and then
Yeah, I
we-
think very simply, I wouldn't even start a closeout until that other amendment is executed.
Okay, so at least put it on the docket for yourself, because he's the month of October, I believe, is what John Hanlon said everything would be completed in. So because once he conveys it to the town, the following quarter is when we start billing him for 20 years.
But do we also, are we billing the individual tenants in the apartments? Because I think they have all separate water meters, so they would get those renters would be paying for.
Separate sewer, it should be. Same with 1 Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
Those apartments would be metered separately and charged separately.
For water consumption.
Right, and sewer. They got to pay for sewer. Those apartments have to pay for sewer.
Right, so
Right.
I was just wondering if they were starting to be built.
The first floor would have its own meter, and they would be exempt from paying water and sewer.
Right.
Carol, can you check with Brenda to see if she's doing meter readings and billing for CJC?
But again, the additional element for us was to make sure what was going to the sewer itself, and those were the flow meters for the pump stations.
Mhm.
And we haven't received any reports from them on flow, no quarterly reports. We haven't received anything in that line. And you know, that amendment kind of codified that you know, those things were going to be submitted.
So the amendment has, but we discussed a specific format that they had to fill in and get to us, and that's in the amendment.
Yeah, there was changes that council had made in the final amendment, and I had recommended, and none of those changes, essentially we got back a signed Delisi version of the amendment, and not the one that we had sent to them for execution, I guess.
Okay,
Yep, I'll follow up.
okay, Carol.
I'm sure it's just an oversight.
I'm sure. Paul, I got anything else?
No, that was it.
Wayne?
No, I'm all set.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
We'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsarge.
Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
See you on the
Beauty, I'm
25th.
only 2 minutes late for my next thing, so.
Thank
I'll
you.
start